You are about to witness a man desperately trying to put out a forest fire with a water pistol. What you are about to see is not a conversation. It is an intervention. It is a struggle session. Charlie Kirk, the prince of the conservative establishment, gathered his brightest young chapter presidents, ostensibly to listen to their concerns about Israel. But he wasn't there to listen. He was there to perform a delicate and sinister operation, to take the raw, revolutionary, and righteous anger of a generation that has woken up and to carefully channel it into a safe, sanitized, and utterly neutered form of dissent. He heard an earthquake coming, and his only instinct was to try and convince everyone it was just a passing train. Today, we are going to dismantle his every tactic, expose his every motivation, and show you exactly how a gatekeeper tries to manage a rebellion he can no longer control.
But honestly, it shouldn't, because this is what's called a focus group. This is about getting down to what the consensus of this generation is. And I think towards the end of the conversation, we come to a really good path forward, one that obviously rejects all the Jew hate.
Before a single student has even spoken, Charlie reveals the entire game. This isn't an exploration, it's a guided tour to a predetermined destination. He's already decided what the good path forward is and has already framed any potential outcome he doesn't like as Jew hate. He's not a moderator, he's a sheepdog, and he's telling you exactly which pen he plans to herd his flock into.
We're gonna play a word association test. What's the first word that comes to mind when you hear Israel?
Judaism.
Aid.
Netanyahu.
Tax dollars.
Liability.
Sacred.
Tax dollars.
Conflict.
Complex.
Controversial.
Scary.
Strategic.
Mossad.
Listen to those answers. The first words are the Mossad, liability, tax dollars, and missile. The one, sacred, sounds like a planted outlier. This is the earthquake Kirk is terrified of. Their gut reaction to Israel is suspicion, financial burden, and covert danger.
So to say Mossad first, that would basically imply your first impression is one of doubt. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay.
When you hear like Epstein, right, do you connect the Epstein issue immediate, like first connection in your mind, that's also connected to Mossad and Israel, or are they feel separate?
This is tactic number one, the reframe. The student brings up a specific and deeply controversial topic, Mossad's potential involvement in things like the Epstein network. Kirk immediately translates this specific, hard-edged concern into a vague, soft, emotional feeling, doubt. Doubt is manageable. Doubt is harmless. A conspiracy involving a foreign intelligence agency is not. He is actively watering down the potency of their dissent in real time.
And I feel like this money could have been well spent in supporting an economy that would support our generation being able to afford homes rather than military strikes for Israel.
What else? What would you want to see from their government? If their government came out and said, we have a 5-year plan to decouple from U.S. aid, would that help people's view of Israel if they said, hey, we want to be self-reliant?
Yes, 100%, absolutely.
Do you think that would help?
This is the core of it. This is why the old arguments are failing. For 40 years, the establishment sold young people on abstract geopolitical games. But this generation can't afford a house. They can't afford to start a family. The failure of the globalist American empire is not an abstract concept to them, it's their daily reality. They are connecting the billions of dollars sent overseas directly to their own empty pockets, and no amount of propaganda can sever that connection.
Do you think that that AIPAC represents, again, I'm not saying I believe this, but I think this is what you're saying, that it represents a kind of cutting in line of prioritization away from the American people?
Yes.
Would you guys say that's a fair summary?
100%.
Another brilliant example of the reframe. The students are talking about a foreign lobby influencing their elected officials, a fundamental corruption of their democracy. Kirk translates this into a much softer, more polite problem of prioritization and cutting in line. It's like watching someone describe a home invasion as a simple breach of etiquette. He is deliberately stripping the moral outrage and severity from their argument.
You don't like Bibi Netanyahu?
No.
No.
I don't believe so.
There is a rise of Jew hate, but it's not the majority mover. I think the majority mover of Gen Z and Gen Z conservatives is exhaustion.
This is the most important moment of the entire video. This is Kirk's masterstroke. He offers them a psychological off-ramp. He tells them, you're not radical. You're not waking up to a vast conspiracy. You're not angry at a system that has betrayed you. No. You're just tired. Exhaustion is the perfect word to neutralize a movement. It's passive. It's non-threatening. It allows the students to feel heard while simultaneously accepting a label that strips them of all ideological agency. It's a brilliant, cynical, and deeply dishonest tactic.
So do you guys think that it's a messaging problem or that it's an actual material concept problem?
It's a values and priorities problem.
Kirk tees up the classic establishment excuse. Maybe we just have a messaging problem. It's the go-to line for every failed institution whose policies are rejected by the public. He rejects both options and says it's a values and priorities problem, a direct indictment of the substance, not the style. This shows how deep the rot is.
I think maybe one other point maybe is about the Holy Land as well. He could make a point going to the Holy Land, filming videos and say Israel's a better protector of the Holy Land than if there was a Palestinian
It's
state.
the argument I make more than anything.
Kirk finds the one thread that still has purchase: protecting Christian holy sites. This is him reporting back to his handlers. The message is, the old strategy is dead, Judeo-Christianity is a joke, geopolitics doesn't work. But their new angle is rebranding Zionism as a form of Christian heritage preservation. He is actively workshopping the next generation of pro-Israel propaganda right in front of us. To truly understand what we have just witnessed, we must strip away the pleasantries and the polite fictions. This was not a focus group. It was not a conversation. It was a political struggle session in its purest form, an emergency intervention where the leader, Charlie Kirk, attempted to diagnose the ideological sickness that has infected his followers and guide them back toward an acceptable, controlled, and ultimately harmless form of thought. His goal was not to understand the revolution brewing beneath him, but to crush it in its infancy by defining its terms and limiting its scope. Every question, every summary, every translation was a calculated move designed to lead these students away from the dangerous, systemic critiques they were discovering on their own, and back toward a set of pre-approved, manageable grievances that pose no real threat to the pro-Israel establishment. Throughout this session, Kirk deployed a specific and cynical toolkit of rhetorical tactics, a masterclass in the dark art of narrative containment. First, we saw the refrain. He consistently took specific, potent, and dangerous concerns, the role of Mossad in the Epstein network, the corrupting influence of the AIPAC lobby, and reframed them as vague, emotional, or less severe issues. A foreign intelligence conspiracy became simple doubt. The fundamental corruption of democracy became a polite problem of prioritization. This tactic is designed to lower the temperature, to bleed the potency out of a powerful argument, and to make a legitimate grievance seem less serious than it truly is. Next, he deployed the false dichotomy. He masterfully created a binary choice for his students. On one side of a stark line are the creepy, weirdo, social outcast, Jew haters, and on the other are the reasonable critics, like him, who are simply exhausted and want to focus on domestic issues. By forcing this choice, he pressures the students to self-censor, to eagerly self-identify with the reasonable camp, and in doing so, to voluntarily abandon the more radical and truthful conclusions their own research is leading them to. It's a psychological trap, and it's brutally effective. Perhaps his most insidious tool was the psychological off-ramp, encapsulated in that single, perfect word, exhaustion. He listened to their righteous anger, their disillusionment born from a sense of profound betrayal, and he gave them an out. He told them, "You're not radical. You're not waking up to a vast, decades-long conspiracy. You're not furious at a system that has sold your future to a foreign power. No. You're just tired." Exhaustion is the perfect word to neutralize a movement. It's passive. It's non-threatening. It validates their feelings without validating their ideology. It tells them, "I hear you, and that's okay," while simultaneously severing the connection between that feeling and its root cause. And finally, when he realized the old pro-Israel arguments were failing, when talk of intelligence sharing and Islamic terrorism was met with blank stares, he executed the pivot to safe ground. He didn't try to defend a losing position. He pivoted. He probed and searched until he found the one remaining argument that still held some emotional resonance, the idea of protecting the Holy Land. Why? Why is Charlie Kirk, the supposed champion of America First populism, working so hard to protect a foreign nation's interests from the justified anger of his own base? The answer is not found in the Bible or in some deep geopolitical conviction. The answer, as it so often is found in power, money, and position. Organizations like Turning Point USA are not grassroots movements funded by bake sales and small dollar donations. They are astroturf operations, synthetic grass grown in a lab, funded by an incredibly wealthy and powerful donor class. A significant and dominant portion of this conservative donor class is fanatically Zionist. These are the individuals and families who write the seven-figure checks that pay for the conferences, the tour buses, the staff, and Charlie Kirk's comfortable salary. His positions on Israel are not a matter of personal belief. They are a non-negotiable condition of his employment. To betray this sacred interest would be to sever the financial artery that keeps his entire organization alive. Furthermore, in the corrupt ecosystem of the modern Republican Party, being pro-Israel is not just a policy position, it is the price of admission. It is a vow of fealty one must take to be considered a serious player. You cannot get booked on Fox News, you cannot get invited to the major conferences, you cannot have a viable political future in the GOP establishment unless you first bend the knee. Charlie Kirk's entire career, his influence, and his access to the halls of power are entirely contingent on him upholding this rigid orthodoxy. This reveals his ultimate function in the American political landscape, to act as controlled opposition. He is a safety valve. His job is to capture the immense energy and anger of the populist, America First right, and to ensure that this energy never, ever becomes a genuine threat to the establishment's core, non-negotiable interests, chief among them, the U.S.-Israel alliance. This focus group was the quintessential example of him doing that job, identifying the dissenters, understanding their arguments, and then gently, skillfully guiding them back into a pen of safe, manageable, and completely ineffective criticism. But for all his clever tactics, Charlie Kirk's project is doomed to fail. He is trying to reason with an earthquake. The forces he is attempting to manage are far bigger and more powerful than he is. The disillusionment of Gen Z is not born from a messaging problem that can be solved with a better slogan. It is born from their cold, hard material reality. They are poorer, more indebted, and face a bleaker future than any American generation before them. And they are, for the first time, connecting their personal suffering directly to the trillions of dollars, the oceans of blood, and the decades of national attention spent on foreign misadventures that did nothing to make their lives better. Simultaneously, the liberation of information has permanently broken the establishment's monopoly on truth. The conspiracies are no longer whispers confined to dusty books. They are trending topics, shared in millions of videos and posts every single day. The real history of the USS Liberty and the Clean Break memo are no longer hidden. They are a single search away. You cannot put this genie back in the bottle. What we witnessed in this video was not a display of Charlie Kirk's strength or influence. It was a monument to his profound weakness. It was a panicked, desperate, and ultimately pathetic admission that he has lost control of his own base and that the foundational myths of the movement he claims to lead have crumbled to ash. He is no longer at the vanguard of a rising political force. He is merely the well-paid manager of a dying ideology's slow, inevitable decline.